Okay, final feelings. Georgia season opener against Clemson, number 14. Clemson against the number 1 Dogs. Georgia a 12.5 point favorite. That line's moved slightly towards Clemson. It's also taken an underdive, just slightly. Again, all these things are slightly. It may be because this was at 49.5 earlier in the week. It's at 12.5 on the line. There's your point. So, doesn't change my view of the world as it relates to what I think is going to happen in this game. I think this game is going to be closer than Georgia people want, but I don't think the result is going to be any different than what people are expecting. You know, I just I follow Clemson quite closely. Um, they were a very frustrating team in 2013, 2023. 2013 they were halfway frustrating too, actually. But in 2023, there were a lot of ups and downs, there were a lot of inconsistencies. The best game they played was against Florida State. They lost that game. They should have won it for sure. So you do have that possibility hanging out there that Clemson could play the way they did against Florida State. The second best game they played was against Notre Dame. They ran the ball effectively against the Irish. No, I think Florida State was decent. I don't know about Notre Dame last season. And we saw what Georgia did to Florida State. Different scenario, different situation. I don't think that Georgia is 60 points better than Clemson. I don't think they were last year, but I do think it's a scenario that exists here. The range here is anywhere from like a 4 to 7 point Clemson win to like a 30 point Georgia win. Like that's the sliding scale. That's the margin for error. I think Georgia's got a significant amount of it. I think that Clemson, though, has the ability to keep this game, nervy for the Munson types that are out there for a while. And here's why. More than anything, Clemson's defensive line and the front seven, I think they feel like can be very competitive. The challenge on that front is that you're going up against Georgia's best group, which is the offensive line. If Clemson can hang in there, the game will be competitive for a while. If they cannot hang in there, they will get blown out. That's just all there is to it. A 12.5 point line signifies that Georgia, that's come down from 13.5. So a point, that happens. A point up, point down. I thought it could get to 15. Obviously, that's not where the market sees it. But, when you take a study and take a look at what, in that range, anywhere from 11 to 15, say, and that's your premise for where this game is. And Georgia's not played a ton of games under Kirby with that scenario. It's been mainly they're heavily favored. So what are some good examples of games like this? Ole Miss 2023, Missouri 2023, Florida 2023. Kentucky 2023, Auburn 2023, TCU 2022. Those games were all anywhere from 14 points to 15 points. Just a touch lower, 14 and lower, I should say. All these next ones. Florida in 21, Auburn in 21, Mizzou in 20, Tennessee in 20, A&M in 19, Texas in 19, Auburn in 18, Mizzou in 18, 17 with Tech, Florida in 17, Appalachian State in 17, and Vanderbilt in 16. Georgia lost 2 of those games, as you well know. Most of these games were blowouts. Georgia, what I think it could be anywhere between what happened with Georgia, Missouri last year, all the way to. I hate to be like. I think it could be like TCU. I don't think it will be that dramatic, but I think it could be because here's why. Even without ETN, you've got a lot of firepower on Georgia's offensive side of the ball. It's the first game of the season, so that's one kind of problem if you want to call it that. Oh, you're gonna have to rely on your offense. That's not ideal, right? But it's there. The caveat to that is, 2 things. Clemson's offense does not match up well with Georgia's defense because a lot of people don't match up well with Georgia's defense, A. B, Clemson's just, unless things have gotten notably better on offense, that's not going great for them right now. Hey, there was something I wrote about in Final Feelings. Why are you not a member of Dawg Post? You can get the site for a month for $1. You can check it out today. There's a link down below. And one of the things that we talk about in Final Feelings is what Carson Beck's yield per throw versus K. Klubnik's. Okay, so in K. Klubnik's case, he threw, I don't know the exact number, but he threw he threw 37 more passes than Carson last season. Carson threw for almost 1,100 more yards. Carson threw for more yards with fewer passes. Like, that's not great. In addition, from 21 in this time of Georgia, this decade kind of, let's call it 21 because I can't remember 20 as well. Whenever Georgia's had the ability to kind of get ready for a game, meaning it's more than 7 days, it's not gone well for the other team. The Michigan game, the Florida State game, the season openers, generally speaking, those have all been losses for the others. Of course, a lot of games have been losses. Some have been very lopsided, though. Some of them have been very lopsided. The TCU game, lopsided. The Ohio State game was not. The Clemson game in 21 was not. There was another one. I mean, they beat Alabama by double digits. They beat TCU by double digits. They beat they beat Florida State by double digits. I mean, like, there's a lot of examples of Florida. They beat those were all double digits. The season opener in 22, they beat Oregon by, I can't remember, 40 something. So those are all, things that you need to remember when you're going into this game. Okay. Our buddies at Red Zone, I'm going to show you this next week on Friday. I'm going to be at Red Zone Live. So that's on Clayton Street, downtown in Athens. And when you come to Athens for the game, you go by Red Zone and say hello. You don't have to get anything, but you will. You can pick something like this up. It's a pillow cover. There's no pillow that comes with it. I'll put some pillow stuff in there. You can stuff it with whatever you want. That is an example of what you can get at Red Zone. Make sure that you're checking that out today. You've got a really good coaching staff at Georgia. They're superb. You've got, arguably the best quarterback in the country. I saw Shedeur Sanders last night. He's a good quarterback. He is raw compared to Carson Beck. Carson Beck's a better quarterback. Sanders may have better physical tools. Sanders can do a lot for sure. He has an exceptional wide receiver in Travis Hunter. Exceptional. For Carson, there's a lot to see in this game. You don't have to have great running backs to kill the other team with the run. Georgia had pretty good running backs last year. Like, they were pretty good. Kendall Milton, Edwards, those guys were good. They weren't exceptional. Georgia probably will not have ETN in this game. They obviously will not have Roderick Robinson, but they have Branson Robinson, Frazier, Phillips, Cash Jones, etc. The list, they got plenty of people. So they, Frazier could be exceptional. We're just going to see. And Branson Robinson shown that when he has the ability, when he has the carry, the volume, he can rack up numbers too. Clemson has had success with Maffa. I think people are overstating that a little bit because of what he did at Notre Dame. They saw it right through Notre Dame, Clemson. Clemson played pretty well at Memorial Stadium last year. Their tough situations came away from home. The Duke game, that was bad. I don't know how they lost to NC State. They did, but they lost. I don't know. I will just say this. I did not watch that game. I read about it, and I looked at the statistics. I know there's a pick six. I get that. But when you limit the other team to 200 yards of total offense, like, you should not lose a game like that. They did. I mean, I don't know. The Kentucky game, that showed a lot of toughness from Clemson. That was a gutty performance. They did not play well at Williams-Brice, but they won. And, you get credit for that too. But they did not play well. I mean, like, Carolina and Clemson both offensively in that game, it was rough. And with the exception of the fourth quarter for Clemson in the Kentucky game, that was pretty rough too. Obviously only scoring 7 points against Duke. Dabo had a lot to say last year about, how he'd never seen a game like that where they'd but you turn it over, man. I mean, like, they're if Georgia turns it over however many times tomorrow, you're going to lose the game. That's just all there is to it. So you have to respect the ball. I think if there's flashing red lights right now, there are more for me with what's happening at Clemson than it is at Georgia. The flashing red lights is you got 28 sacks last season that Klubnik had to deal with. He fumbled the ball 10 times. He lost 4 of them, but he fumbled it 10 times. And then he had 9 interceptions. So, that's a lot of wasted drives that you just don't want that. That's not going to work. Do you remember the Vanderbilt game for Georgia? Carson Beck did not play well in that game. That's a lot of what Klubnik has looked like this past season. In his career at Clemson. I mean, against Tennessee, he had a hard time in the Orange Bowl. So I don't know. I mean, the only thing that surprised me about all of this so far is that the number went backwards a little bit. But other than that, I don't know how, against Tennessee, he was, again, like 55% completion, 4 sacks, 2 interceptions. Like that's not going to work against Georgia. This guy cannot. There's a dual reality to Klubnik. He has tremendous physical gifts, but the proof after, however many games is that his best game has probably been the first game he played as the starter at Clemson, which was the Carolina game for the ACC championship. After that, like the Notre Dame game, he was 50% in that game. Florida State, he played okay. That was not bad. It got sacked 3 times, and I keep bringing the sacks up. I don't know how many times it's his fault, but it's his fault for holding the ball. He holds the ball a lot, and the people that I trust the most that are Clemson folks, they're not negative for no reason. They're not Munson people. Like Georgia fans are just like conditioned to that. These folks are, they're not that way. And when they're negative, it's for a reason. They have optimism about the defensive line. They have optimism about Clemson's wide receivers. But like I'm picking points here, man. Like Phil Maffa, he had a really good game against Notre Dame. Like it was good. He played pretty well against Kentucky too. But like you need to be like that cat from Ole Miss that transferred to Ohio State. Like you got to be deadly. And I don't know if he is. I don't know. Maybe. He had almost 1,000 yards a season ago. He really clobbered North Carolina. But it was what he did to Notre Dame with 36 carries. I mean, no wonder they, if your running back's getting it 36 times, if they're going old Marcus Lattimore and Herschel Walker and George Rogers on you, yeah, you're going to lose. So I think he is a good player. I don't know if he's so dynamic that Georgia's, he's a big power bruising guy. I don't know if that's a great matter. Like you need to score and score fast. What Georgia had to deal with Etienne when he was at Florida, they always knew where he was. He was a problem. And I think back to Alabama last year, they were concerned about Milroe running it. Those are explosive guys that can score a touchdown in no time. That's not the type of back Maffa is. He's a volume guy. He's more like Branson Robinson. Branson Robinson's one of Georgia's backs. I'd be straight with you. I don't know who the backups are at Clemson, the running backs. I don't know who they are. So, and people may not know who Georgia's backups are, but just at the end of the day, this is going to be a tough ask for Clemson. Now, is it possible they keep it closer than people like? Completely. I mean, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. The problem with the first game of the season is it's the first game of the season. You don't know what in the world is going to happen. And, having watched Tech just destroy Florida State, just let's be honest. They look like the best team in the ACC, Tech. And, I watched Carolina last night. That was a great win for North Carolina. But just, and I know they lost Max during the game. So stuff happens, you know what I mean? But I don't know what to think of stuff until you see. And that's the hard part. It's all gibberish at this stage. But we know the track record here, which is that Georgia has consistently played well under Kirby Smart. They almost always get up for big games. I mean, the Ohio State game, they didn't blow them out. Missouri this past season was definitely a fight. No question. Missouri looked good to me. Now, I know they weren't playing anybody great, but sometimes it's not who you play. It's I think Arkansas played. Our Pine Bluff's pretty bad. They really are. But when you're throwing up 70, I mean, Rutgers looked bad. NC State looked bad. I want to see what Georgia's got here. Win or lose, I want to see where are they actually at. If you're losing to Clemson, you got some real problems if you're Georgia. Like, that's not going to cut it. And, everybody's wanting this to be a determinative game for the season or whatever, or Dabo's, let's, go get the pitchforks for Dabo. Dabo's going to be fine. They win this game, you'll never hear the end of it. He will pop off all the time about how he's not worried about the transfer portal and all that stuff. And he has the right to do that. If they lose, though, there's no point in throwing dirt on the guy because he's not in a grave. I mean, he may be in real trouble in terms of where his program's headed, but that guy can coast at Clemson for a while. But in terms of this season, like if you're Georgia, or like let's say Ohio State was playing Clemson, I'll be straight. I would have more questions about Ohio State than I would Georgia. I mean, there's reasons why. I mean, Chip Kelly, you got the new quarterback. It's like there's questions. Georgia doesn't have as many questions. Georgia's question is ETN playing or not? And it seems like he's not. But other than that, like if you're wondering if the center who was hurt at the beginning of August is back and ready to go at the end of August after he's been practicing for 2 weeks, like you got good problems in that case. Roger Robinson's out. I mean, like guys are going to get hurt. That's why you recruit multiple 5-star players at these positions. The other thing I wrote about in Final Feelings too was, Klubnik was the only top 50 recruit in his cycle for Clemson, and in that cycle, Georgia signed. Now I got to go back to my article. Georgia since that time has signed 15 5-star players. Clemson signed 5. Clemson has, let's see here. Oh man, this is a huge article and you're really, you're doing yourself a disservice not checking it out. But, Clemson signed 5 total 5-stars in the last 3 cycles. Georgia signed 15. In the cycle where Klubnik came out or, signed with Clemson, he was the only consensus top 50 guy in that class for Clemson. Georgia in that class signed 8 top 50s. 8. That's the issue, is that guy is going to have all the things we've learned about him are going to have to change this game. And it's not just this game and he's playing NC State. He's playing Georgia. That's the challenge. I like the Dogs. I like the under, and I like the Dogs. Thanks for watching.